Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with RC Groups. I'm excited today to be with Brenden McCormick. Brenden, what's going on?
How are you, buddy?
I'm
Happy
doing
to be here.
good.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, we're in the early throes of summer, so it's definitely time to get out there and fly a little bit. Have you been flying anything? Well, I'm sure you've been flying what we're about to talk about, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've actually, the weather started to break here in PA, so we've had a good opportunity to get a lot of good flights in now. We've been waiting. It's been a long, miserable winter. We've gotten some winter flights in, but now it's time to start getting the summer stuff in. We're dealing with a little bit of rain right now, but we're catching it in between.
And just so everyone knows, today we're going to do a pretty in-depth discussion video, the whole thing on the AN-2 Antonov from Maxford, USA. This is sold by Gator-RC, which are good friends of the channel. I'm talk to Ashley and her dad regularly. But before we kick into that, Brenden, tell us how you got into the hobby.
So I was first kind of introduced into this hobby with my grandfather as I was growing up, always going over his place. He would scratch build models. He would take plans out of RC Modeler magazine, if you remember that,
Yeah.
and he would take them to like a Kinko's or a FedEx or a Copy Center, whatever it would be at the time, and he would actually get them in 3 different sizes. That was his thing. So if I'm going to build one, I might as well build 3.
Okay.
And he would build them in like a small, a medium, and a large. But I never really. He had a couple cool ones, but I was always like, I was into the RC cars, you know, the Hornet, the Grasshopper, the Lunchbox. And I never really did anything with the RC planes until I probably hit my young 20s, 22, 23. And I was like, you know what? Planes sound kind of cool. Let me get into some planes. So he had sent me one of his scratch built planes. And he said, get with somebody that knows how to fly. They'll teach you. And simulators were just kind of starting to be the thing. And you know, this was a big 3-channel kind of floaty stick-built plane, so very light. And I got with a guy that worked with me a little bit. There wasn't a lot of clubs around here, and it wasn't super popular, but we flew out of the back of a industrial plant. They make windows there. So back in the parking lot, it kind of has, the parking lot sends off into the mountain area. And we took this plane out there and he's flying it around. He's doing well. Like everything looks good. And he give it to me and I fly it a little bit and I give it back to him and I was doing good with it. And he starts flying it around and he got it over the top of the building and lost sight of the thing because of the angle of the building. And you heard for the first time in my life is a and I remember calling my grandfather and saying, it smashed. He's like, nah, just throw it in the bag, bring it back, we'll fix it. So I still have that plane to this day. I still fly that plane to this day.
Wow.
It has a bunch of different colored covering on it. It's not quite as nice as it was, but it has a lot of sentimental value. And that was kind of like the start of it all. So we went from working with some scratch build planes. I actually scratch built a couple myself early on, started doing some kits, started getting into ARFs, and then now the big kind of boost into the electrical plane generation, if you will, but I still like gas. I do glow. I think the only step I haven't taken is the turbine step, and hopefully we'll get there one day.
Okay. Awesome. I remember the first big, I've seen a lot of crashes, but I'd never heard a crash like you're describing the sound until I watched Mike Hines fly a pretty big warbird into man, I think it was a big stand of wood. It was like a pile of wood. And it sounded like someone had crashed their car into a barn. It was like,
yeah,
bash. He fixed it.
The bigger they are, the bigger the car crash sound.
Right. Well, let's kick off here. I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to take a look at the AN-2 Antonov. So here's some photos just so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. So this is an ag airplane, correct?
Yeah, so this was... you know, as I build planes, I kind of like to learn a little bit more about them. So not really familiar with this model, the Anushka, as they call it. This was one of the second longest planes ever in production, only second to, I believe it was the C-130. This plane was used for cargo transport, troop transport, agricultural use. Its landing gear was built for rough field kind of application. So still a lot of these planes actually in full purpose use at this point. A lot of them just for agricultural use now, but they also use them for civilian transport. So a little bit of everything.
So that's how big it is, a size reference. And with that said, we'll take a couple of more shots. Let's go look at the specs on this thing. Wingspan 102 inches, overall length 70 inches, wing area 1969, ARF weight, 16.5 pounds, so it's a big ARF. Flying weight, 20.9 pounds. And recommended 50 to 60. What size motor did you run on yours?
I went with this 60. I went with the EME 60 with auto start. I'm definitely a throttle control guy. I would like to have a little bit more power and be able to control it as long as I can keep the looks on the plane decent. Being that this was the first one out there, I really had nothing to reference at all. So I had told Ashley, like, let's go with the EME 60. I love that application. I love it in planes like this. Mainly because the extra weight of the motor and the relay and the battery up front actually helped to prevent adding a bunch of wasted weight to the plane. And as I started to do some preliminary fitting, it was going to be close and not much different from any other application. So I think like if you were to go with a DA50 or something, it's got a little bit smaller of an engine platform. Maybe a hair cleaner, but that's not enough to deter me. And I tell you what, that EME 60 totes that thing around without a problem. And there's nothing cooler than auto start.
Yeah, right. And so with that said, and you tell me how much of this stuff you want to look at. We have an unboxing video. Do you want to take a look at that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Let's get to a good place.
Boxing this Antonov AN-2 from Gator-RC and Maxford, USA. The Anushka. All right, everybody, welcome. It's Brendan here at Just Plain Crazy. Thanks for joining me again yet for another episode. You got it. We are down in the lair today, and we are unboxing from Gator-RC. This is the Maxford, USA Antonov AN-2, otherwise known as the Anushka. This is a 50cc or power system equivalent biplane. Comes in two different versions, a really cool blue and then a red and a silver. We have the blue version here. We're going to unbox it. We're going to take a look at the quality of the build, the wood, the covering. I want to throw a EME 60 with auto start, just like my Zero from Gator. Check that link right there.
Nice.
But otherwise, we're going to be throwing in the King Max servos in this thing, also available from Gator. Maybe trick this thing out if possible with a nice four-blade prop. But otherwise, enough yapping. Let's get to unboxing. All right, guys. So right out of the gate, I noticed that we have a lot of bubble wrap around all the individual components. They use tape along the edges. I tried digging in here a little bit before for a manual for building. That is available online. You can print it off just as I did, so we can look at specs and some of the build process, see what other materials we will need. So I just printed mine off. It's only 13 pages, but 7 double-sided. So let's start digging into some of this stuff. I am going to use a razor blade. Let's be careful we don't cut things, but everything seems to be individually packaged, which is really nice on the inside, and then taped into place so it's not bouncing around. It's that bouncing around of components that breaks things. So again, we got some nice bubble wrap and then overlaid, kind of overlaid for more protection. Got some QC stickers on here, so maybe that's good. People are looking at things. This would be my first Maxford USA plane. They've been around for a very long time. It's not a new company. If you do some internet searches, they're out there. They actually have a listing for spare parts, so some would be available through Gator. And I guess if you have to go for other things, maybe you had an accident, need bigger parts, you can contact Gator for those. But potentially even just order them right off of the Maxford website, I guess. But I don't know what it'd take for them to come in. So what do I see here right out of the gate? Number one, beautiful baby blue covering. Beautiful baby blue. So we're dealing with Robart style hinges for the elevators, which is really nice. And I'm going to be picky. I'll be picky. I'll pick apart absolutely everything that I see. I'm not a good monocoat guy. There's a lot of things I think I can do well. Covering is not one of them. I'm impressed with what I see. And if you look at this covering, I see a lot of wood grain texture to it, which tells me they really got it down and pressed it into the wood to prevent wrinkles, which is what I like to do before I take it out anyway. I also noticed that there is, it looks to be like a very thin carbon plate right over that end wood right there. for, I would assume, a little bit of extra protection. And then it looks like on the inside, they use a little bit of vinyl to cover that over instead of trying to get the covering in against, get it to roll up and then not wrinkle in there, which is a nice touch. They got individuals. So these are obviously our horizontal stabs. They're going to have individual, it looks like, servo bays right next to those. So that's cool because now we're minimizing linkage and we don't have servos with a really long linkage attached to them. So I really like what I see here. The covering is actually well done. It's a plasticky style covering, but it looks good. Now, you'll also notice that I threw down this protective foam mat because we're dealing with such a really cool plane here. I don't want to damage or poke holes, and if you put any weight on that stuff and your bench got stuff on it, it'll poke through pretty easily. So to get it out of the way, what do you guys say we get right to the bread and butter? We'll get right to the fuse. My buddy Dave tells me, Brenden, just get on with it. It's like a striptease. So
he absolutely loves that line. I use it in every one of my videos. He loves it.
Landing gear. Get this out of the way because it's in the way of the fuselage.
And if you could see that plane barely on the left up there above, right behind my logo, that's the plane. That's the original plane that I learned to fly on.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather loved that baby blue covering. He used it on a lot of stuff.
Like patio door struts, something like that. So they're going to take the Anushka's rough field capability serious with the landing gear because this stuff is robust. I mean, the metal kind of looks like it's already pre-assembled for you, and this is very heavy duty. I can't really bend it at all. Got some nice eyelets there on the end, but those shocks look pretty serious. The tail wheel on here, let me show you that. Let me get up close to the camera. Hopefully you guys can see it. So you see the eyelets, the big jam nuts. That stuff is probably 1/4 inch rod, and you can see the way it's all eyelet on the end of there. And this is the tail wheel assembly.
Yep. So 81 is...
I don't know why I really like baby blue and kind of color. Orange is my favorite color, but I do really like the blues. So this
we know why. Your grandpa.
Fit here
Yeah.
Just plain.
That's it. It works.
So it looks like we have... This feels like a aluminum, and it probably has an aluminum backer there to it, like a leaf spring setup on the tail wheel. If you put them together, they're very sturdy. By themselves, you got some flex to it, but if we leaf spring these just like I anticipate doing, the holes seem to line up there for that. That's pretty stout. And then we got a little tiller arm and springs for the rudder. So as we do this, bear with me, guys, as you probably see some pauses in the videos and stuff. I just want to snap pictures here as we go. So that way we can also post stuff on the Just Plain Crazy official Facebook page and people get to see it there. Great. All right. So that was that. Let's cut some tape.
This thing is normally when it's huge,
really well.
fuselage wise. Like it doesn't show up in specs, but it is so wide.
Fuselage coming out.
I think when you're unboxing, the fuselage is always the big show, you know.
It is. It really is. And I was kind of taken back when I finally got this thing out and I can look at it and how enormous it is. It gives you that bulldog kind of feel. It's just like the short leg, fat body kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm pulling on this, and that tape, the way they have it packaged in there, guys, is really holding it in. So that it's pretty secure. This is a big fat fuselage.
You know, you spend a lot of money on an airplane like this, but when you pull something like that out, think just the man hours of building it and covering it, getting it all perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be, you know, as far as this thing has to travel and make it through being undamaged. And you're dealing with balsa and balsa ply here. And
very careful with the razor knife.
How far they make it and be undamaged. I mean, this plane had absolutely
even
no
if you
problem
drop
with
it,
nothing.
when it lands places, it's bad. Oh, look at the big canopy here. So lots of bubble wrap. Lots of bubble wrap. All right, so what do you guys say? Let's pick this thing apart and see what we got. So we got a huge canopy. It's huge. It's huge.
And I had no idea that canopy comes off. I did not figure that out until halfway through the build. I thought the only way they were going to give you access to batteries or switches is through the top wing. That canopy is held in there so well with those magnets that like it didn't give at all. And I thought that they had the glass or the plastic there cut just because of all the compounds. And here that whole greenhouse, if you will, comes off.
And you don't want to force it.
So you can see
What's that?
Yeah, and you don't want to force it.
Large,
like this is a magnet that will rip your fuse off.
Canopy.
Yeah, and they don't mention it in the directions anywhere. In no part of the directions does it mention about removing the canopy for anything.
So they do
That's where you
make
come in.
crease cut.
Yeah, absolutely. And then during like the first run up, it actually, because of the vibration of the engine and the air, would lift the canopy off the fuse. So I had to come up with something as strong as the magnets were. All that airflow over there disrupted it a good bit. So a very quick modeling snafu, but we got that corrected pretty quick. Something that's secure.
So they got some plastic in here for the windows. So if we got windows, we either need people or we need lights. That's just plain crazy way.
Lights.
But it looks like I got a small crack in the paint here in the canopy. A little bit of touch-up paint will cover that up. That's not a huge deal for me. Not a big thing. And again, there's that little crease cut to get all of these angles, but it's glued on there really well. It seems really well attached, but it's big. So I think maybe we need some pilots or something up here in the front of this thing. We'll see. Maybe there's something in there. I don't know. But again, the white on the side of the fuselage is very eye-catching. The covering is tight. It's like a drum. We're not right. Anyway, so we got some screws in the back. We'll see what those are for, maybe some flying wires, but the covering on the bottom is really well done. The covering on the sides is really well done. The blues look good. There's a lot of lines here. And this is covering, it's not paint. Yeah, looks good. I don't see a wrinkle or a mess in it. I have maybe it looks like one tiny microscopic indentation where maybe there was something under the covering there. Again, if you're that picky, but let's take a look at the inside and see what we see. Everything is okay, so that slides out. Oh, it's a sliding firewall.
Whoa, that's cool.
That's cool. Let me get you guys down. I got to show you what I'm seeing.
You know, I had one of these horns and my wife forbade me of ever using it.
So check it out, right? So this is
That's fantastic.
That's the size of my hand. That's how big that canopy is. And they got all these little intricacies of these lines and squares. Here is the crease cut that they made so you can get all those compound curves. And this is that material all the way out to here. So the black is what the black is. It's a little bit duller in texture compared to the covering, but it looks nice. Maybe got a little bit of dirt in the paint right there. Not a big deal. Here's my small paint crack. Again, not the end of the world. And a small little mark underneath the dirt or piece of wood or something under the covering. But the white is very eye-catching. I love the colors. Reminds me of Cessnas a lot went with the white with these baby blue and dark blue kind of schemes. So it is very eye appealing. I like the white with these baby blue stabs and wings. That's going to look awesome. The windows, again, textured there with that plexiglass or whatever it is. Lexon, I guess, is the better word. So we'll get some lights or something in there. We got strings to fish your wiring through, which is awesome. And everything is laser cut ply here on the inside and locked together. I can see that they run some glue down there in the joints. So if you want to test quality of the builds, so what I've seen out of all the builds that I've ever done, if you want to know if there's quality issues, start pushing on formers and start to see where things don't want to stick together anymore, and you'll hear cracking as you push on them. So these are all of those plates, and as I push on them, I feel no movement. They're solid, and I'm pushing pretty hard, and you don't hear any cracking. So it almost looks like a white glue, whatever they use there. But it's solid all the way across. Like something like that, you'll always get a little bit of movement in, but when you push against the grain on things, how does it look and feel? So I like the looks of what I'm seeing, especially here on that plate. That's pretty stout. Check this out, watch. So I hope you guys can see that. Look at the Firewall box. So I'm assuming that we're going to use this in combination with standoffs, and I guess you can move this motor box wherever you want
for CG.
And check this out. Why don't we throw a servo in there that has a release rod, and then in flight you can just eject the whole engine package right now.
I've lost your audio.
Here, David's wrapping up. Look at this, the Draco.
There you go.
There you go. And I just skipped ahead here.
But yeah, it's the CG or, you know, just getting that prop clearance, whatever. So finding the right length standoffs can be a challenge anymore with people that have stuff in stock.
So you can just move that firewall wherever you need it with whatever you're running.
Yeah, and it was nice. It made it really convenient. It was a nice feature. That was a nice touch.
So do you want to run through this whole video? Because I know we have 3 more videos to go. Do you want to hit some highlights?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's as much as you want to go through. There's a lot there. The intention was, like, when I do an unboxing, especially on something that's completely new and different like this plane, I like people to, you know, really be able to see and understand what they're getting. I know other people, they'll do an unboxing and just rip it out, lay it out, and this is what you're going to get in the box, but it really doesn't tell you about the quality of the product or really what you're in for there when you buy it. The build videos in itself, what I noticed kind of right out of the gate is that the instruction manual is really non-existent as a whole. It's not very good. It's not accurate, and there's really no guidance there. So when I discovered that early, my intention was with these videos more so than all the other ones that I've ever done, is that people can use this for their instruction guide as they build this plane. So they are on the lengthy side, and I know that a lot of people ain't going to watch them, where most people will just check out the unboxing, probably secondary to the Maiden video, and seeing things fly and getting interest in it, circling back to the unboxing. And then if they feel they need to, they can reference build videos as need be. So yeah, highlights and stuff is good.
I can say that I have a Draco that I'm working on right now, and I've watched 2 full videos just so I don't miss anything. So I appreciate not the unboxing is for before you buy the plane, right?
Yes.
And then this video is for when it's sitting on your bench and you've got to figure out exactly how this works, you know.
So do you have the Draco plates for the landing gear?
I don't know that I do, because I'm just running what they gave me, you know.
Okay, so if you want that plane to hold up, you got to just shoot me your address. I'll send you a set of landing gear plates that I developed for that plane. Okay. I've literally sold those to every country probably in the world now, from Jerusalem to Germany to France, Switzerland, to every state in the U.S., Australia. It's crazy. The UK, everywhere. Gotcha. There's so many of those planes everywhere, but the landing gear is extremely beefy with my modification for them.
And that sounds like a whole other article that I could do. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't seen it yet, I have a nice YouTube video on the plates. I'm actually using what is now version 3 plates. I designed these things with a manufacturing company, and I went through a couple stages of modifications until I finally got what I wanted. And one of the problems I realized along the way is Horizon, whoever makes their gear for them, they have 2 bolts they drill in the leg of the landing gear for the strut brackets, and they drill them differently. They can literally go anywhere. They move all around. So every single Draco out there is very uniquely drilled. Mm-hmm. The axle hole is the same, but the top 2 are different. So basically I put the plates with a bottom hole and no top one, so you can drill them to match what you currently have. So The video is like version 2 stuff, but now we're into version 3 plates, but it still works.
And with all that said, everyone, all the videos that you're looking at, the unboxing, the 2 builds, will all be in the description on my YouTube video that you're watching right now. And then I'm also going to have that in the feature on RC Groups, which will have even more information about all of this. So I'm just jumping around here so you can look at some of the build video. Then we have a second build video, and I would assume this is when you stuff the airplane with all the important parts.
Yeah, all the goodies got to go in there, all your electronics. The first one was a lot of installing Robart style hinges for the people that have never put those in and how to have success with that. And then getting the tail set up accurately. So I use a lot of laser guidance to set tails. And typically I need very little trim or have very little aileron trim when I actually go to fly stuff because of taking the time to set it up. In the second build video, we get a lot into the engine, install, fuel system, and electronics. And finally the wings.
And how long did it take for you to build this thing?
I had that done in 3 weeks time, probably about an hour. So realistically, this may be one of my shortest builds ever at about 18 to 20 hours. There's just lots of room and things went together for the most part very well with very little hangups. It was straightforward. A lot of the time you're doing some serious modifications to stuff. This plane required very little for me to do to be really happy with it. I wasn't really sure about the whole wing tube. It didn't have wing tubes. It uses like a triangle little carbon rod setup instead of wing tubes. I've never seen that before. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about this, but I soaked some thin CA around the wing ribs. And I mean, it was rock solid in the air. And I did things that somebody put in the comments, why? Why are you doing that with an Antonov? It should be flying circles. And I'm like, well, you guys want to see quality. Let's hang it upside down for a while and see how it fares out. But that was really one of the only modifications. And then what you're seeing right there is what I did to the flying wires. I came up with my own little setup so I can quickly get them on and off without a lot of disaster at the field. Yeah.
I had a Booker, a big Booker that I always wanted, but man, what a pain it was to take that thing apart, put it in my car and put it back together.
Yeah. I have a Pitts, a Great Plains Pitts Special that I still fly. And that's the biggest downfall for me taking to the field is the flying wire setup. You're 45 minutes in it to get it ready.
Now there is one part of the video I did not show and I feel like I have to. So what does your light indicate?
That is the ignition on and off. So I know whether it's hot or not. So that's in my twisted little head, the way I foresee things. So I need things to be visual. I like little gadgets and gizmos and little touches. And on this plane, like the auto start's nice, but it's not really a touch because I did it my 0. It's not new. So for this one, I wanted to do people or lights. And I thought, you know what? I was at a flea market with my wife. And this flea market, they have all these booths set up all the way around the flea market. And these people just sell all these random things. And you pick an item out of their booth and you take it to the front register and they know by the tag who the money goes to. And I don't know why these little Mickey figures, they may be collectible and worth millions of dollars, but he's now in an Antonov. But they were in this glass lock case. And I had to ask the lady for that and Daisy for the other side. They were $1 a piece, but they had them locked up so nobody can steal them. So I knew sooner or later I would use them. And I'm like, this guy's the perfect height for this. So as I know that my ignition's hot or not for starting, it's an easy reference right out the side window.
And with that said, where did you get your pilot?
The pilot is left over from another kit. That one's really weird. He's not quite scale because the Antonov was a 2 pilot setup, but to me, I like practical kind of setups too. If I put 2 smaller pilots in there, it'd be a pain getting the canopy on and off and all that greenhouse. I just like somebody to be in there. So not quite scale, but I like it.
Now we're going to get to the exciting part, and that is the flight video. So maybe I should just turn the audio up and let it roll.
Yeah, go for it.
Just plain crazy. Everyone in there has to sit down, get their seatbelts on.
Here we go, going up. Maiden time. 8-minute timer, by the way.
Most exciting part of every plane build.
Right left.
What it's all for, right here.
And then you get to see how well you trimmed it before you flew it. Okay, we're getting a little. You're giving it a little up, maybe.
That one, it gave a little up on itself. I had to give it a couple clicks of down. I think I needed like four clicks of down elevator
down
from where I
trim
was, and that was a no
little
flap
bit of right.
takeoff. But it didn't feel snappy, even though it went up a little bit early. It didn't feel like it had any bad tendencies to like snap stall or anything.
I guess you do have two wings.
This is on low rate so far. Kind of what I would expect. I'd call that pretty trim already.
Yeah.
It's what I would expect on low rate. So it's going to highs. I'm just trying to keep some altitude with a biplane with flying wires. If something goes wrong,
yes,
going to need a little bit of altitude to work with. But this 4-blade from Aircraft International, 20x10 prop on this EME 60 with auto start. I'm at about a quarter power right now, just cruising around.
Dead
really
stick.
Easy. No major throttle needed here.
Dead stick with that would be like a brick, because I have dead stick of biplane.
Yeah, they are.
So right here, well, I'm going to show you something right now.
And it takes so little to tune up those engines and get them to run reliably. They're really good engines. I like them a lot.
What's an engine like that go for?
I think they're mid 400s with a stock muffler, and then if you want to go with a pit style, usually they're like 100. And it's a great power choice for this plane because it has more than enough throttle.
Have a nice,
it has more than enough power.
Consistent sink rate to it. It's not unpredictable.
Where did your motor box wind up being?
It is about 3/4 of an inch out. So, and I went with, they were 35 millimeter standoffs is what I had on hand. So I went with those. That gave me enough for carburetor clearance.
Flight mode, so we can adjust the trim individually. We'll play around with that as we go. Pretty predictable up there. Feels good for a big biplane. Let's start getting it up a little bit, and we'll see power-wise how it does for loops and stuff. Again, we're on high rates right now.
Oh, that looks good.
Loops, no problem. A little bit of power management down through the bottom side.
3, 2, 1.
Let's take it up and see what a roll looks like, just because we don't know throw-wise what it is.
Right.
So that's a slow roll. That's not bad. On high rate ailerons. So let's take flaperons. Take it up again. Oh yeah, them flaperons, guys, make it nice. Oh, inverted is good.
Do we do any knife edge?
No, actually, that's funny that you said that. I was just thinking in this video, nice I think I put it through everything but a knife edge. I don't think I tried it at all. The stall turns on this are amazing. They're clean.
See if we can do an element here. Power of the EME 60, guys, with this prop it's easy. Nice stall turn. Big barrel. Into a Cuban. It's agile for a big bulldog. I call this plane a bulldog. It has a nice presence like a bulldog. It's agile. Let's see what some flap settings start to look like.
Flaps up.
All right, so it balloons up a little bit with, that would be 15% flap. It
That should be
balloons up,
15
so we're gonna have to
millimeters.
dial
15 and 20 millimeters is what I
down.
used. There's a lot going on in the brain when you're doing all of this.
Right, right.
All right, let's set the high range flaps and do the same thing.
Flaps up. Total flaps.
All right, let's putz it by here on low rates. Low rate flaps, take off flaps. See what it looks like.
We get a landing. That's good.
I think on this one, I think it was just checking out the slow flight characteristics.
Show pass.
Yeah, we get about 2 more. It got to be careful with the slow speed. It can get a little tip stally there. Towards the end, I could feel it wanting to drop that wing, so we added power and we
snappy there as we reach
got it back up.
So keep a little power into it for landing. Keep that nose down coming
There's
in.
a lot of drag on that plane when it slows down.
Do you do a mush
And again,
test
we had a
where you
tailwind there
pull up
too,
belly
so just keep that in mind.
I don't,
the other way
just simply
with the flaps.
because not knowing what I'm going to get into a model,
And
I want to
usually
have
I'll
a
have a
successful
little higher
landing.
of an approach.
Yeah.
So
We're
we'll
reviewing
bring it
these
in
for
that way.
people, so I never want to push it to the point where I'm afraid it's going to do something bad. But a lot of people do ask for that, and I don't know, I just don't.
at least not on the first flight.
Yeah, and we'll put it through the paces as we get more, but I think so far I got about 7-8 flights total on this, but it flies a long time. It'll fly sub 12 minutes on a tank of fuel. I think here we just get a touch and go in, kind of just testing it, see how the landing gear is going to hold up and see what it would feel like on approach.
Yeah, all kinds of power.
Yeah, no worries at all. And it's not
no
too
worries
much
there,
that
guys,
it creates a
with
lot of
power.
P
Plenty of
factor where,
power.
you know, it twists
Keep
the
a little
plane
bit
as
of
it
airspeed.
starts the
There's a
power
lot
out.
of drag on
It's still
this
pretty
plane. Big
symmetrical and
biplane,
straight.
4-blade prop, flying wires. Again, the mix is great for that rudder. That's a perfect recommendation at 15%.
Oh, perfect.
Woo woo! Look at that. Yeah, keep that power on coming in the land, but I like it. I like it. This is a cool little bulldog, or a big fat bulldog. Again, guys, available from Gator-RC, the Antonov AN-2 from Maxford, USA, 50cc, 102-inch wingspan, flying the King Max servos in this, also from Gator, and as well as my favorite engine, the EME60 with auto start. And again, what does that look like? Turn it on, and we're up and running. So there you go, guys. Hope you loved it. All right, guys, so something to note here. Check this out. So this thing's been sitting out in the sun a little bit before I put it here underneath the canopy, but there ain't a wrinkle in this covering. I just noticed this. This thing's been sitting out there in the sun and everything else, and there ain't a wrinkle to it. Whatever they use here for covering on this plane is really, really well done. Well, guys, there you have it. That Maiden was much more than I expected. So I wanted to put this thing through the paces, especially since they didn't use that wing tube and they used that kind of triangle design with the carbon rods. Whether we're doing elements, rolls, hammerhead, stalls, whatever, inverted flight, I think we put it through the paces enough to not only know that the build stuff we did to it works, but their design works, and it's actually trustworthy. The mix on the rudder is perfect. The low rate and high rate suggestions are good. And then what I would tell you is mix the flaperons in. It made a big difference on the rolls. Keep in mind when you're going slow flight, you need to be very careful with the stall speed. If you're running the 4-blade flying wires, the gear, two wings, all that stuff is drag. So when you think you're going slow, it's probably too slow. Keep that power in so you don't stall it, because when you snap a biplane slow, it's going to need a ton of altitude to recover, and you don't want to do that right above the ground. Otherwise, the build was fun. The quality here is great. We're running the King Max servos in this, link in the description below. The EME 60 with auto start, look in the description below for that. All of this stuff available over at Gator-RC. We make our own wires and stuff like that. Did our own little special touches to it. That was good. Balance is right on the money for where they said. I was very happy with that. We needed a little trim right out of the gate. Flap settings on this, I think you can play around with. I don't know that it will make a huge difference with your flap settings at the end of the day. Otherwise, I think I'm going to do some adjustments here on my flying wires, adjustments on the landing gear, and tweak it up a little bit. But this is going to be a fun plane to fly for a very long time. The only downside, the instructions were bad, but again, that's why you got the video series. So if you guys haven't seen the video series on the build, go check that out. I was happy with the quality, I'm happy with the build process, and I'm happy with the way it flies at the very end. So again, it is Brenden here at Just Plain Crazy. You guys are Just Plain Crazy for always hanging out and watching. I appreciate every one of you guys. Smash that thumbs up button. It helps us out a lot. If you're going to hit the thumbs down, smash that baby twice. Shameless plug to like, share, subscribe, all that cool shameless plug stuff. And do me a favor, head on over to www.gator-rc.com. Check out the cool line that they have in the Maxford USA Seagulls models and Top RC model, and see if there's something there that interests you. They are fantastic people to deal with. One-stop hobby shop for all your needs. With that being said, from me and the Anushka here behind me, I wish all of you guys happy flights. Peace out.
Man, you're a pro.
We try. We try. We do an okay job. I've learned a lot over the years. We're always trying to improve. Always. Everyone.
That was great. One thing that I was thinking is the guy that taught me to fly, who actually had the Booker, that's kind of what I would watch him land. He would, every evening he would take off and land. He said, always never give up, fly it to the ground. And I got a biplane. I'm not sure how I got into it, but I could not keep the wing up, and I just kept going down. I'd try to recover, drop a wing, and I thought, don't stop. Keep flying this thing. And at the very end, I realized I was at quarter throttle, and I'm talking 10 feet off the ground. I've hammered it and just, whoa, I saved the whole thing. And
Wow.
it's all because I never gave up. So never give up.
That's,
Well,
you know, for landings, it's the same way. Crashes, it's the same way. I tell my friends, you got to fly it all the way to the crash site. You
right.
know, never give up on the thing.
You said it pretty much all at the end, but after watching all this stuff and discussing, are there any other final thoughts?
There's a couple things they included with the kit that I have still yet to date figure out where they go. There's a white square that they have covered. They got some nice holes drilled in it. I have no idea where it goes. I couldn't find anywhere on the plane where it served a purpose. So that was a little weird. There's a couple things in there. It was like, I think they were cleaning out the factory. They needed just to get rid of some stuff, and this is a good way to do it. But otherwise, I was actually super surprised with the quality. Like I said, there was never any, I've never done another model from Maxford. So I compare it to a lot of the kits that I've done or ARFs that I've done. So whether it's Seagulls models or, Balsa USA stuff, you know, whatever kits are out there, it's kind of like where I like to make comparisons and it's good. It's right on par with everyone else. I like the way that they did a lot of things. The sliding firewall was fantastic. That really helped. The directions, again, if you're not a seasoned ARF builder, you're in trouble, but now we have the video series to follow. So you may choose to do things differently for your own likings, and that's cool, but at least you have a basis to work with. So that's going to be really helpful for people. But the covering was great. The way it actually flies and lands is really good. And so far, I've really experienced no issues with the plane that are of any real concern to me over anything else that I fly. You know, it's very trustworthy, take it out, fly it every day kind of model, and have a great time with it. So it's a nice plane. I really like it.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time and talking to us. And Gator-RC actually got us hooked up, and I would love to do some more videos together, you know, when you do some other planes. So
absolutely,
we should do more of this because it's awesome. And like I said, the links to everything we're talking about will be in the description below. And then I'm also doing a feature article that will have all the specs, all the information, links to Gator, all the things that you need to know to go buy this airplane or its counterpart, which I believe you said is red, correct?
Yeah, it's a red and a silver. So I didn't actually have a chance to get any pictures of that one. I just posted up the pictures of the blue and the white one, but the red and the silver also looks like a very nice scheme. The blue one's kind of sentimental to me a little bit, but they're both really, really nice transport schemes.
And I'll have the red one in my feature article as well. Well, man, thanks for taking time and sitting here and showing us all the things that you might need to know. If you're thinking about buying the Antonov, or if you have bought it and you want to build it, it's all right here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on.
Brenden McCormick, just playing crazy on the YouTube. And that's it. Stay tuned and do all those things he said in the video. Click all the buttons. I always feel a little weird about asking people to click things, but I guess that's how it works now. I'm Jim T. Graham with I'm Jim T. Graham with RC Groups. Brenden McCormick, just plain crazy. Bye, y'all.